Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Great you could be with us again. I'm delighted to be joined by Amir from Longwoods International, President and CEO, and a very good friend and colleague. And they, of course, have been working with us on this research. I'm going to pass over to Amir in a moment. The research, this webinar recording, and a two-page summary is all available as part of our Clarity in a Time of Crisis website. We also do that two-page summary, which includes a quick exec summary of the key points and takeaways. And I just wanted to highlight Global All-Stars. We just had last week Destinations International Annual Convention, part of that conference. We help organize Global All-Stars. There's some tremendous content and case study examples from all around the world, stories of resilience and recovery coming out of COVID-19. So please check that out. And without further ado, I'll pass over to Amir for wave 16th, coming into late July, in the dead of summer in terms of US. And so what are we seeing, Amir, in terms of how Americans are thinking about their travel?
Well, thank you, Chris. It's great to be back here, although I think we have to stop meeting like this. I think we'll all be happy we don't have to do this particular study anymore. But things continue to change. It's a roller coaster. It really is. And when you look at the trend lines and some of the data, you'll see that obviously the consumer psyche translating into traveler sentiment rides along with the news cycle and the events around the pandemic there. But we did get some very interesting key learnings today, and I think we want to touch on at some point here about a shift in the traveler mindset that's possibly emerging here. So getting into the numbers real quickly here, 77% of travelers planning travel in the next 6 months are changing their travel plans. 43% have canceled a trip completely. 41% have reduced their travel plans in some form or fashion. 27% are changing from flying destinations to drive market destinations, and 20% have changed their travel from international to domestic, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Moving along, again, you see the roller coaster starting to emerge here in terms of plans, changing plans in the next 6 months. You kind of see that the last few survey waves have reflected the rise in cases, destinations that are pausing or rolling back, some of the reopening and so forth, and it's again shaking, causing folks to be a little more uncertain about where that travel plan is going to happen, especially post-summer, now that we're getting into the midsummer, late summer season. Again, very heartened to see that we inched back toward the right direction in terms of getting the reduced travel plans back up almost on par with the canceled trip completely. Hopefully they will cross paths again, and it'll be more reducing versus canceling outright. But we lost some ground, and we got to make up some ground there. This is the data point I really want to talk about. Not so much the changing from flying to drive destination. That's been very consistent throughout this pandemic, but it's the sudden spike in changing from international to domestic travel. In the last few weeks, right, the EU has started to reopen its borders to travel, but not from visitors to and from the US, right? Our borders remain closed to a lot of most non-essential travel. Canada, Mexico borders are closed at least to the end of August. So all these folks that kept putting off their international travel, kept postponing, they're saying, forget it right now when it comes to summer, fall. There's no light at the end of the tunnel for them yet. So they're going to take a domestic trip. So for destinations across the US, you have an opportunity to capitalize on some of this depending on where you are and how your reopening is going. Moving on, we've got those three key factors you've noticed every time we put this out here about transportation costs, the economy, and fear of coronavirus. Transportation costs still remain pretty negligible. The concerns about the economy still remain pretty low, and it's no surprise, it's the fear of the coronavirus. And again, fear of coronavirus has been inching back up along with the news cycle. So there's the roller coaster. In terms of the economic concerns, we've been talking about this the last several broadcasts, that how it's remained low historically and so forth. But think about this now. There's potentially an emerging shift in consumer mindset that we're seeing here. You see that strong pent-up demand to travel still. You see the economic concerns remaining low. If you recall the surveys that we did the last few weeks, where a lot of Americans were telling us they're going to be traveling in the near term, as frequently as the next 6 weeks, and the types of travel that are going to be taken. We think that we've seen enough data, not just from our sources, but other ones, that's telling us now that for many American travelers, the mindset is shifting from, you know what, I'm going to wait this out and travel when it's safer or better or the pandemic's under control, to, you know what, I'm going to travel what's the right way for me to travel with the pandemic going on. There's an acceptance that's going on that this is going to be here for a while, perhaps, and so how do I travel within those means that's a way for me? And you'll see some of the other data I'm about to show you supports that theory. So moving right ahead, again, are they going to travel the next 6 months? 2/3 of Americans are. That's never gone below that, even in the best. So this hasn't been that much of a roller coaster. You can kind of see it's held relatively steady in the big picture. So that pent-up demand is there. So you know that we ask these little timely questions from wave to wave, looking at different aspects of sentiment and travel, and right now really important about perceptions of safety and so forth. Well, there's been this big debate, and we've heard from a lot of destinations, mask, no mask, how are we going to do this? Push back even when it's politically mandated, so or by law. So we asked the question, hey, what impact does it have on your travel decisions? Folks, it's not a debate. The numbers don't lie. It is mask world, please. 60% of American travelers are telling us that they prefer a destination that has a mask ordinance of some sort. 35%, in fact, say they will only go to a destination that requires the use of face masks there. Conversely, for those naysayers, look at that, 9%. Less likely or will avoid the destination because there's a mask ordinance. And of those, only really 3% are going to avoid the destination in there. They may be a very vocal minority, but they are definitely a minority. So from safety practices, obviously, please wear a mask. Help quash the pandemic, please wear a mask. But from a business perspective, if you're doing the numbers, which side are you going to side with? The majority of travelers want the mask. And then, as you know, the last couple of months, we've also been tracking these travelers as residents. We've been asking them about their perceptions of opening up their communities to visitors, traveling outside their community, and how safe they feel dining and shopping in their own communities. Really hasn't changed that much. Still very, very divided. The only thing that's changed is on the more positive side of the scale has gotten a little bit more negative, generally speaking. So again, supporting opening up the community to visitors. We're still not where we were about a month and a half ago, where it was really trending in the right direction at a good pace. We kind of went back to where we were in late May. I'm really concerned about that, but I think as people dip their toe in the water more, that has the possibility to inch back up. And again, you saw the numbers actually. You actually saw the numbers. I go back there a couple weeks ago, where much higher than 36% of travelers, are going to travel outside their communities. Much higher than 38% of travelers are going to travel outside their communities in the next 6 weeks alone. So what's that telling us? Again, it supports our theory that folks are changing their perception of how they travel, how they need to travel, if they're accepting that they will be traveling with COVID. So what's the amount of risk for me to take? Maybe it's being in my car versus being on a plane. Maybe it's camping instead of staying in a hotel. I don't know, but for everybody, it's going to be different there. But the bottom line is there's an acceptance, and that's something we need to capitalize on. Not in an unsafe or crass manner, a very thoughtful manner. When you look at some of the campaigns that are being rolled out now, it's about safety first. Finally, it's dining, local restaurants and shopping. Again, slight uptick, but we have to keep encouraging our residents safely to get out and dip their toe in the water so they can get going again. Chris, that's my story as always, and I'm sticking to it. Over to you, my friend.
Yes, thanks a lot. I think we're seeing that the rise of COVID-19 cases, which continues in the US, and some recent stats are pretty humbling in terms of the state of Florida has significantly more cases than the entire continent of Europe. So that continues to be a drag on the US recovery in terms of travel and tourism. And I think it's pretty evident that unless there's some significant breakthrough or change, that the rebound is going to be subdued and cautious, and obviously subject to those figures around the pandemic. And we've seen in the mandatory mask wearing numbers that we need stronger efforts from government, but obviously destinations and tourism industry can play their part. A recent survey by Arrival in the attractions activity space identified that the majority of attractions still do not have mandatory mask wearing on their own premises. And so ideally we've got that government action, but certainly in the tourism industry we can play our part. And if we focus on these basic health standards, get the pandemic down, we can hopefully start rebuilding confidence, starting with locals. So thank you very much for joining us again. Again, you can access all of this information both on the COVID-19 Communication Centre and on the Longwoods site, and we look forward to connecting with you shortly. So thank you.